If it's possible, can I talk to you a little bit about Dulcie's Date?
Oh, Dulcie?
Dulcie's Date, excuse me.
Sure.
And now you're the writer and you're also the director.
Yes.
And you're taking on some producing credits
yes.
while you're not doing everything else, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of the producing in the pre-planning stages.
Right.
What?
Give us a summary about Dulcie's Date and what it's about.
Dulcie Danner is a jazz radio show host at the national level, and she works for a fictitious national radio network called UPR, Universal Public Radio, which is thinly veiled National Public Radio. And they say when you write a film, write about something you know.
Right.
And for me, the reason why I'm sort of taken back to that time frame is that NPR, or National Public Radio, when I worked there, felt like my graduate school of audio, because I did that right before I went off to work at Lucasfilm, and I was really honing my craft there.
Right.
And so I find myself in graduate school again thinking a lot about those early days at NPR. So when I went to find a protagonist for my film, I thought, who would be interesting? Who am I interested in? Who would I really understand and know and be able to write about? And I started to think about some of the radio show hosts that I worked with so closely when I was an engineer.
Right.
And you do develop this very tight relationship between an engineer and a radio show host, because you tend to go places together, you're always out on location together, and they tend to be very dependent upon you, not only technically, but sometimes you're the last ears before they record something or send it out over the air, so they're tweaking the language in their copy, and so you become very, very tightly involved in content. So I digress, but Dulcie Danner is a jazz show host, and she had this relationship with a jazz musician named Skip Hawkins, and he's a saxophone player, and he's very, very popular, and he's been touring. He's a very intensely popular touring artist. He's been touring for 10 or 12 years. But she's never really been able to sync up her relationship with him because she has a touch of agoraphobia, and she doesn't want to leave to be able to go out and travel with him. And then when he would come and stay with her, when he would leave to go, there was this separation anxiety. So she's struggling with this, and she has developed actual agoraphobia over time to the point where she runs her radio show from her house using an ISDN line, which is the technology of digital. So she sits in her living room and interviews musicians all over the country and the world, basically, goes live for her national jazz audience, and misses this jazz musician because she can't be with him. She can't really have a full-fledged relationship with him. Well, into this comes her programming executive, who says, you know, Dulcie, sponsors are going to pull out because the energy on your show is gone. You haven't been going live, your fans miss you, you haven't been out of the house, essentially, for 3 months. You're going to lose your sponsor. So, we want you to go down to Anthology in San Diego and broadcast live because Skip Hawkins is coming to town.
Cool.
So, all of a sudden, she's motivated to try to deal with this agoraphobia for 2 reasons. One is she really would like to see Skip, and number 2, she's got to save her show because she's going to lose her sponsor.
Right.
And we thought, Anthology, what a beautiful location.
Perfect.
It's a premier club. So when she first hears from her programming executive that Skip is coming to town, she pushes back a little bit. Wait a minute. I'm a national jazz show host. I'm not going to go live from some local club, Norman. Forget it. And he goes, Dulcie, it's Anthology. And then she goes, oh, okay, maybe I will go live from there. So now she has about 4 days to get her act together and to learn how to go back out into the world and be there in front of all of these people. So for her, it's her personal growth as she begins to really grapple with and overcome this disability that has come on so slowly in her life.
Wow.
What a great premise.
Thank you.
I love it.
That's awesome.
And so we're going to end up, our last day is actually on location at Anthology.
Anthology.
Don't
Very
tell
cool.
us how it ends.
Okay, I won't.
So,
but wait, there's more. You're wondering about Ben Reed?
Yes.
So Ben Reed is obviously not this national jazz musician.
Oh, he's not?
No, he's not, because this is a triangle. It's a love triangle. And Skip Hawkins is being played by George Watson, and he had a role on The Wire, HBO's The Wire.
Right.
So the role for Ben Reed is Jack Haggerty, who's basically a delivery man who's been kind of helping Dulcie to get by because she never leaves home. So he sees her every day, and over time he's developed a personal interest in her. And so he's trying to encourage her to come out. And he's beginning to fall in love with her, but she's not really paying much attention to him because she's so focused on Skip and the problems that she has to overcome. but he becomes quite a caretaker and a bit of a rescuer really for her. And he's encouraging her to go out. So what happens is he comes to her house to make a delivery and realizes she needs to come out. So he contrives all these interesting ways to get her to come out. So he puts her favorite chocolates all the way down the walkway to get her to pick them up and come to his car. The next day he comes out and he says, what am I going to do today? He sets up these jazz LPs, these vintage jazz LPs in the bright hot sun, knowing that she can't let them sit there and melt. And he says to the people standing on the sidewalk, watch this, she won't be able to resist. And out she comes, and she scoops up those and she gets in his car. So little by little, he's in getting her out and keeping her moving. And for him, it's a little bit of a conflicted goal because, you know, her goal is to get back with Skip, maybe even get well enough to be able to go away with him. And for him, with his interest in her, that's not necessarily a good outcome. But if he makes the choice to not help her, she doesn't grow and she doesn't live a full life and doesn't become, you know, back to the normal, wonderful person she can be. So for him, it's a hard decision. I mean, he has to help her, knowing full well that by helping her, he might be losing her. And so they are really wonderful. And casting that love triangle was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We saw 700 submissions for the role of Dulcie.
Wow.
Talk about women needing to work. 700 submissions.
And how did you, and who's the lead character you have for Dulcie?
Dulcie is Suzanne Carceres.
And how did you come about picking her out of the 700?
Oh my gosh. So I have a casting director.
Right.
Herein lies a good story. So we held auditions up in LA, and I had the casting director set it up, and she said, oh, well, we've had about 100 phone calls. This was the first audition. But don't worry, Dawn, you won't have to see them all. Only a third of them will show up. And then you will probably dismiss 2/3 of them because they don't look right. And then you read with the final. Everyone came.
Oh.
So I had asked Ben, who is a wonderful, he's also my student at Miracosta College. We just happen to be very lucky to have him. I asked him if he would come up and read opposite these women. So he shows up and it's a mob scene. And I said to him, Ben, you know, there are 100 women here. We cannot possibly read with them all. He said, no, they came. They're going to get a chance to read. He is a prince.
He's a prince.
He is a prince. He's just wonderful. And he's been, I think his SAG card dates back all the way to '91.
He's got great eyes.
Great eyes, great intensity,
Great smile.
lovely nuance, a lot of sexual charisma.
Right.
I mean, the actresses, when I would walk them out, were like, I want to play opposite that guy.
And he's a great guy to hang out with. He's just the most easygoing, nice guy. I mean, off the set, he's as cool as he is on the set.
And he really knows his craft.
So if I ask you, what do you want to aspire to? What is your goal? What is the optimum of where you're at with your career? Where would you like to take it and be known for?
Well, I am very interested in producing in the romantic comedy genre, feature films, or producing in, you know, family dramas. The reason why I went into producing in the first place was that I cared too much about content to stay in that sound design world. I was on a sound design track.
Right.
In fact, I was working with, you know, some of the best sound designers in the country, you know, the people who invented it. And those people have, you know, closets full of Oscars. And I was on that same career track, but I realized after about 3 years in that I just cared too much about the content. And by the time sound design gets to you, the content is so locked.
Right.
You cannot have any influence on that. So, and I think this comes from National Public Radio, because when you work in public radio, you always care about content from ever on. And so I would like to produce, I've optioned a couple of screenplays, I've written a few, and I'd like to turn this short film into a feature and take that to the maybe $200,000 level and to finish that as a feature and make it be, you know, push that production into the black and let it be solid at a lower price point. And then perhaps to follow on with something after that.
Are you going to try to get it to some festivals? Are there festivals that are coming out that you can get it screened at and get some attention for it?
Yes. I don't mean to brag, but I...
Please do. Please, go ahead.
I won the Best of Fest at Best Fest International, which is a San Diego-based film festival in 2008.
Congrats.
2008.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's great.
And that was a film I shot with my student partner, Christina Cervantes, and we shot it on 35 millimeters so that we could have that experience of shooting in film. And we shot it in Balboa Park, and it did very well in the festivals.
That's
and
great.
won a couple.
Well, congrats.
And so thank you. So this year what I'd like to do is submit to the San Diego Film Festival.